Mapaya Enoch. I got that right. Yeah. Mapaya Enoch is a director, research and administration from the Action Coalition on Climate Change. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
You have a hard name.
No, Nimpamia is a botanical name.
Okay.
That means I confirm.
I confirm.
In the local language of Nyankole. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about this. And on Monday we saw cabinet sitting in Entebbe, and also after that they approved, this kind of Minamata convention on the use of mercury in gold mining. As an environmentalist, what's your take on this? Is it on the positive side?
Yeah, truly I would applaud the government and the relevant agencies for candid efforts put in to see that finally our government has taken action and directed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be able to file the instrument in the ratification of treaties so that Uganda is part of this global multilateral agreement on Minamata Convention. It has been long overdue, but since the cabinet has pronounced itself recently on the same matter, this is a positive development, and we really thank the government.
Just help us understand the Minamata Convention for someone who's watching us and has not yet interfaced with this particular development. Yeah. What does it entail?
The Minamata Convention is an international treaty that was signed in 2013 by different countries. Its aim is to reduce the anthropogenic effects of mercury and its compound. Mindful of the fact that the different countries have ratified it or signed a treaty with or Minamata Convention, it means they have committed to reducing the mercury releases. Why Minamata? It was named after a city in Japan called Minamata. What happened was, at a certain point, there were methyl mercury discharges through water that ended up in the shores of Minamata Bay in Japan. These releases contained a lot of mercury compounds. What happened? Communities and members within the bay that consumed fish, shellfish, ended up suffering a lot of conditions and complications, and men actually died. By the time Japan conducted the research to know why these people were dying, they realized that people were consuming fish that contained a lot of mercury compounds.
Right.
So Japan became the anchor, raised the alarm throughout the world, to the extent practical that many countries realized it wasn't only Japan, because it literally was known about how dangerous mercury can be to human beings and to the environment. So that's how Minamata Convention came. It's an international agreement meant to reduce the emissions from mercury and its compounds in any form in the entire value chain of it, including production, including supply, and including the products that may contain mercury.
But is it a sure way to a state committing to the implementation of the reduction of the use of mercury in whatever use? Signing the convention is one thing, but implementing that and putting policies in place is another thing. So do you feel like this time around we're going to get it right? Because you always say that in Uganda we are very good at creating perfect policies, but we ail with the illness of the lack of implementation. So this time around, are you hopeful?
Yeah, this time we are hopeful because the implementation infrastructure in Uganda of different policies and laws has been really weak. And it is always often said that laws are drafted in Uganda, they pass through Kenya and they are implemented within our neighbor Rwanda. But we are hopeful because we recently conducted a study as Action Coalition on Climate Change, a baseline study, to ascertain the quantities of mercury available in saturation. And the statistics are appalling. It is too much, and people do not know the dangers of mercury. I think you'll be able to play some of our documentary.
Right.
You see people using their bare hands. Ideally, you are not supposed to be using the bare hands while washing powder containing mercury and the gold particles. Then internationally, pregnant women are not supposed to be close to where mercury amalgamation, where gold amalgamation, or where mercury is being applied. But in Uganda, we found it is the opposite. In all the sites that we visited in Busia and Mubende, Busia, that is Tina, landlords, then we went to Busia United. For Mubende, we went to Rugongwe and Kayonza. All of these at Zaino miners, the sites that we selected, they were all applying mercury in the raw form. And you see, mercury is, I think we shall get to the dangers of mercury.
Right.
But the honest truth is that we have a baseline study. Even some other institutions like NEMA we are part of this. And we are hopeful that now that we've raised the alarm, now that we have the statistics, the government, of course, is concerned in protecting the lives of the citizens. Because these citizens are your children, they are my children, they are my brothers, they are your brothers.
Right, right. And when you're talking about that, of course, we'll be playing this particular bites because we have Mr. Ronald Lorette. He's the Senior Environmental Officer, Mubende District. And also, we have some cutaways just to show how dire this situation is, especially in these areas that actually are involved in mining. We look out for that. But just break it down for us. When you say that you actually did a survey and you found out that the use of mercury or the penetration of mercury use is not regulated in the country, and it's not just in mining but also other areas. What are these other areas that you pointed out to?
Apart from the because in gold amalgamation, mercury is used at the last stage, that is gold purification.
Right.
So that you capture different compounds of gold with mercury. It can quickly amalgamate this. It is like a magnet. So away from the mining, we are saying there are other areas which are equally affected, including like the cosmetics industry. The cosmetics industry, we have a lot of products on the market which contain a lot of mercury and its compounds. And these citizens of ours are not informed about how dangerous this mercury can be. So as a result of that, therefore we are saying, other than mercury, its application and use is widespread and it has gone on unabated. So it's compelling and high time that we raise awareness to all the citizens of this country on the surrounding danger of mercury and its compounds. So that said, therefore, we are hopeful that with the government taking a bigger step in adopting certain sections of the Minamata Convention,
right,
we hope that really the trajectory will be changed and we shall have a cleaner environment, a healthy environment for our citizens.
And a healthier people.
And a healthier people.
Because the other week we saw this news breaking out and some fish coming from China failed a taste of mercury. Some of them, actually most of them, were containing mercury in them. But how do we get to that point? By the time this fish is getting to us in Africa, I mean from China, Kenya as well, we saw that story blow up at that point as well. Who do we point fingers at? Because, you know, corruption also gets in there. By the time these products actually come and penetrate the market, someone somewhere is reaping billions and billions of shillings, earning from this particular unscrupulous dealers. So how do we get to that point where we regulate and we ensure that things and goods, products, especially food that comes through, and cosmetics as well, that come through are with zero mercury?
Yeah, that one entails facets of different variables, including, number one, there must be the commitment of the government to regulate. Actually, this Minamata Convention, in its essence, it is trying to regulate the use of mercury, its production, its supply. But the ultimate goal is to see that mercury is totally eliminated. We can use other alternatives, technologies, to mercury use. That is the ultimate aim. So, if our government is committed, or our governments for that matter, because it can't be the government of Uganda alone.
Right.
It has to be a collaboration. Otherwise, if Uganda regulated on its part, then the neighboring country like Kenya doesn't. Given the fact that we have porous borders, chances are high that we shall continue experiencing the same issue. The other component is, of course, if all countries put into practice what Minamata requires, then we shall see the production go down. Actually, countries were given 5 years to phase out production of mercury. I think you are aware that Uganda, we don't produce mercury.
Yes, we don't.
We only import it from outside.
Yeah.
And it is killing our citizens over time. And nobody knew that it is that cosmic or dangerous to our health and our environment. So now the second component is, if people are aware, they can demand for action. You say, why are you not helping our people?
Right.
Because when we go to specific dangers of mercury, you see that they don't discriminate, whether young or poor. Mindful of the fact that mercury is transboundary. Once emitted or released into the atmosphere, it can go into any place. Mercury released from Mubende can end up affecting somebody in Kampala.
Right.
Mindful of the fact that mercury can enter into your system through the gastrointestinal tract, through the respiratory system. It can even enter your body through the skin.
So let me ask you, them that are in the mining sector, especially with gold here in the country, how then are there measures to ensure that they don't get into having the effects of mercury, engaging with mercury on a day-to-day basis? Because if you're saying if once it's emitted in the air, it's not just people who are there that are going to be affected, it's going to move all the way even to Kampala, for example. So I'm sure it is worse for them that are engaged in the production every single day, the mining of gold. So are there measures to ensure that these people who engage on a day-to-day basis are actually protected health-wise? This
is the intervention that we are really implementing.
Right.
Together with our partners. But of course, we can't do it as a civil society. The government must full-scale come on board. Because, you see, mercury is such dangerous that in case somebody is pregnant, it can contribute to miscarriages.
Right.
It can contribute to a child who is, if a mother is pregnant and produces and gets contaminated with mercury, produces a child. This child will be born when his nervous system is almost distorted. These are the children whom you see having tremors, and some of you would think that they have been bewitched. Mercury, once it enters your system, it will affect the kidneys. It will affect the lungs. It will destroy your immune system.
It will kill you, in essence.
It will contribute to cancer.
Right.
And in extreme cases, too much accumulation of it in your body will be fatal and contribute to death.
So when you're doing your study and when you're doing your on-the-ground surveys, them that engage in this mercury gold production on a day-to-day basis, where mercury cannot be mined or segregated, did you find that they have the right apparatus to protect them health-wise from the effects of this mercury?
No, apparently no. In Uganda, our artisanal small-scale gold miners are applying mercury without care. They wash the mercury with their bare hands. They walk barefooted. Pregnant women are busy washing water with mercury. Children from school or even out of school, because we found a lot of evidence of child labor.
Right.
They are applying mercury. Remember, this mercury can also enter into the value chain of food. So to the extent practical that once you consume food in a place that is contaminated with mercury, you will experience what we have been saying. Also, if an animal, say a pig or a cow, consumes grass that is contaminated with mercury, it will end up here in the abattoir in Kampala. So for you don't feel safe, and you say, me, I'm safe, I'm far away from Mubende, gold mines, for that matter, no. Because even it can enter into the water systems, both on surface and groundwater. So that if somebody is applying mercury in Mubende, you will find somebody in Lake Albert affected.
Let me ask you, so who stands to be blamed if all these controls are not in place?
No, surely I wouldn't wish to go into the blame game.
But really, who is meant to regulate this?
This is the mandate of the government.
Yeah, because I'm thinking...
To regulate the supply of mercury.
Right.
Protect the citizens. Idea, you are supposed to have gloves before you apply mercury. Ideally, you are supposed to be having gumboots. Ideally, you are supposed to be having the protective gears before you apply mercury. Ideally, pregnant women are supposed to be away from the places where mercury is being banned. And ideally, the government would have stopped its citizens from applying mercury a long time ago. So this study that we conducted recently on the status extent, sources, quantities, and perceptions towards the use of mercury, it was even launched by the Honorable Minister of State, Peter Lokalis.
Right.
So he also was concerned about the findings. And he said, no, we as the government, we must do something. So it falls within the mandate of the government to ensure that its citizens are protected, because its effects are far-reaching and have...
Right. And do we say that now them that want to get into that space of gold mining then have to be given this caveat to it, that if at all you're to get into this space, if at all you're going to be involved in the mining of this gold, then you're mandated to protect the people who are going to help you extract this gold from the ground? Do we say that we have such control, such that, because I know the government cannot do everything.
In Uganda currently, no. Actually, we've raised a red flag conducting this study. And the video documentary that you are talking about, where you have these bites, it will be talking for itself, and you'll see these things. So we didn't even have the quantities of mercury available in gold in saturation. It is until we recently conducted this study with the support of the Open Institute for the Eastern and South for Eastern Africa. Now, what point am I making? You need to be mindful of the fact that once mercury is released into the environment, it can stay there for a minimum of 100 years.
A minimum?
A minimum of 100 years. Meaning that it can kill this generation, kill the other generation, and for a minimum of 100 years. It is that much dangerous. So, it doesn't only affect human beings, but also the other species.
And so much
chicken, pigs, all this.
Every single aspect.
Every single aspect.
Right.
In the ecosystem.
And we know that the government cannot do everything, sir. Not so. So do we say that we put regulations whereby them that want to get into the space are mandated to take care and to protect and to provide protective gears for them that are going to be involved directly in this mining? I
think you make a good point. How I wish by yesterday the Ministry of Health concerned itself about this. We extended an invitation. I think they didn't attend, but other agencies attended, because we realized this is a relevant ministry that should be taking upon this. Now that we have the statistics, now that we have the findings, now that the effects are well established, they are properly documented. Ministry of Health should be helping these people with the gloves, the protective gears. But I needed to throw one thing so that it guides our discussion. In Uganda, as I said, mercury we don't produce it. Therefore, where does it come from? It comes as far away as from China, from India, even from developed countries. And some of the mercury is smuggled from our laboratories here in the hospitals. And it ends up to the local person in Mubende, right away from China. You can even imagine. Then in terms of cost, mercury is relatively cheaper, that everybody can even afford it. So its application is widespread. So the government really should come up and protect its citizens, because the situation is too much. You will even see testimonies in the video documentary that we produced of the miners themselves telling you of how they have sleepless nights. Because once it gets into your system, you'll have insomnia, you have sleepless nights, you even have loss of memory at a certain point.
Let me ask you a question. Already we know that the effects, the dire effects are widespread and it cuts across. So are there alternatives, especially to miners, to them that produce cosmetics? Are there alternatives? Let's first start with the miners.
Let's start with the miners.
Yes, the gold miners in the country. Are there alternatives?
Number one, Uganda is not the first country to extract gold. In any case, Uganda's gold extraction is largely at Zaino. At Zaino, in the sense that it is more or less informal. Even the contribution of gold to our GDP is so insignificant. right? Mining has not been a serious sector in Uganda to affect or contribute so much to the macro economy. We had agriculture and this service sector and etc. Therefore, we are not the first country to extract gold. Other countries like Japan have been doing the same. Countries like Ecuador, countries like Peru, countries like China, countries like South Africa, Tanzania, all of have been extracting gold using mercury. Some of these countries have completely phased out the use of mercury. Like Ecuador has phased out the use of mercury. Tanzania is almost completing that. Because there are those other alternatives that you can use, which can maximally achieve even much more than what mercury does.
And what are these alternatives?
Some of these alternatives include the use of mercury, the use of borax.
Okay.
Borax is a chemical. I hope you will not challenge me and you say now we are going to other chemicals. It is a chemical, but it is, welding. Traditionally, or for a long time, we've been having people doing the welding, but you've not heard of these effects on them. So borax contains some of those elements like we use in welding. So you can use borax to be able to attract the gold particles. We have the gravity system and quite many others, other alternatives that are available. We even have the gold catcher. There is a system or a machine that can catch gold.
Right.
But we've not been having this. But largely why? Because our gold mining in Uganda is largely at Zaino. So it has been done by the common man. The government has not had a serious interest in the gold mining. But gone are the days. We are saying the situation is alarming. It is too much. We must do something. Our women, including the old women really who are supposed to be our grandparents there, you find them importing these cosmetics for bleaching purposes. What is the end? The end, you find you have the skin cancer. The end, you find that if you get an accident, you cannot easily, your body cannot easily heal.
Right.
Why? What is the government doing on this? I wish it was banned yesterday. You see, some of the consignments at the customs are smuggled in the names of other merchandise. If you go to the customs at Maraba or any other point, largely we import most of the products from Maraba. You'll find that the records for mercury importation are low, or they sometimes don't have. But yet, on a daily basis, mercury is concealed within other consignments and brought here. But if we had systems and detectors, like the way you pass through the airports,
right,
we would be able to detect and we say, no, this consignment is containing some elements of mercury, and therefore we think this is not the right thing you should be doing. You apprehend those who are importing it. You apprehend those who are supplying it,
right,
so that we protect our environment and our citizens.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Enoch. And I think what you're pushing for is the complete phasing out of this particular metal, because it is a metal at the end of the day, but very deadly and lethal metal.
Completely. That's
and we can survive without it either way.
Many countries have survived without it.
Right.
Japan has phased it out, because when its citizens were exposed to the very dangers of mercury and its compounds, it phased it out.
Right.
Other countries have. So Uganda can equally
phase it out. Thank you so much, Mr. Enoch Nimpamia. Yeah. I'll get that right. You told me, what's the meaning again?
It means I confirm.
I confirm.
Yes.
Can I say, Mr. Enoch, I confirm?
You can say Enoch Nimpamia and Kakasa. I confirm.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. He is the Director of Research and Administration from Action Coalition on Climate Change. That has been the conversation. The hashtag still remains to be Morning at NTV. Keep your views coming. Morning at NTV still continues. Up next is Andrew Chamagero with Reality on the Ground. Don't go too far.
Watching Morning at NTV.
Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6, it says, a child is born to us, a son is given to us, and will be our